Bayern Munich are through to the Champions League semi-final courtesy of a 1-0 win thanks to a Kimmich goal. It was a closely contested tactical encounter, so how were Arteta and Thomas Tuchel looking to outsmart each other? Let's take a look beginning with Bayern on the ball. In the first leg, Arsenal had success by beginning with this setup, where Havertz would aggressively press De Ligt, forcing the ball into Dyer, from where Odegaard would then look to back up that press, joined by Rice and Saka, meaning that Dyer would often have to go long on his left foot. In this encounter, Bayern tweaked their build-up play in a few different ways to account for this. The first being Musiala being much more proactive in these deep build-up phases, looking to receive even under pressure. As he is so good in these small spaces, he has the ability to turn even when a man is looking to track him. And once he did so, Bayern would then have room to attack in the midfield. Dyer was also more confident going short as they were man-to-man down the left-hand side, so some neat combination play had the potential of seeing Bayern Munich suddenly break Arsenal's press. But this was not the main adaptation by Tuchel. Instead, in the build-up, Dyer and De Ligt split extremely wide, so that if Arsenal looked to continue their press, Bayern would have a simple 3 versus 2 in the midfield, allowing Laimer to either receive the ball with no pressure on him, or alternatively if a man was looking to press, they now had the ability to get men between the lines. This simple tweak forced Arsenal to change their pressing shape, as now Odegaard was much more man-oriented on Konrad Laimer, which would mean either Dyer, who was the press target in the first leg, would now have no pressure on him, allowing him to therefore look for more penetrative passes with all the time in the world. But the more common occurrence was that it was Saka who would have to come in from the wider regions to back up this press, as Arsenal were determined to stop Bayern building up easily. The problem, of course, is that Mazraoui was now the free man, and Neuer is more than good enough to find him more often than not. And once he did, there was then the potential for the 3 versus 2 down the left-hand side, and Bayern would be able to get high up the pitch fairly easily in this manner. And the man-to-man orientation by Arsenal when defending the midfield meant it was difficult for Bayern to build through the centre, so they had to be dependent on the wide regions, and often this meant using the right-hand side. The goal here, especially when they were higher up the pitch, was to try and isolate Sane against Tomiyasu, as Bayern felt he had the beating of his man. And this did prove true for most of the match, as Sane had both the ability to cut infield, as well as hit the byline and look to chip in a ball on his right foot. Crucially, as always, Bayern looked to flood the box as much as possible when the ball is out wide, with Musiala, Kane as well as Goretzka from deep often making their way into the box. As a result, Martinelli began to drop deeper and deeper to try and create a 2 versus 1 against Sane. The knock-on effect of this was this pocket on the right-hand side, where Kimmich was happy to move into to receive the ball. Kimmich is a great passer, especially when given so much time and space, so he could look to cross the ball into one of the men who were flooding the box, or alternatively thread a pass through. And for the goal, it was Kimmich bursting forward from this region into the box unmarked, due to the previously discussed Arsenal build-up shape. And overall, Kimmich was vital to the Bayern Munich attack. But how did Arsenal look to break down the Bavarians when they were in possession? Arsenal consistently looked to build up with the back 3, and in deeper regions, this would be by Raya looking to join the build-up phase, but in open play scenario, as we've become accustomed to, it was White tucking in from right back to form that same back 3. The reason for this is that Bayern tended to defend in a 4-4-2, so Arsenal would naturally have the 3 versus 2 shape, as it's always a good idea to have at least a one-man advantage when on the ball. But Bayern's 4-4-2 was not a flat 4-4-2 as shown, and one of their major goals was to prevent Arsenal playing through the centre of the pitch, which they had success in doing, and this was because either Kane or Musiala would be slightly deeper, looking to keep Jorginho in their cover shadow. Sane also operated extremely narrow down the right-hand side, trying to use his cover shadow to cut out Gabriel's passing angles into Declan Rice, making it harder to find that man as well. Once again, without Zinchenko at left-back, Bayern Munich were more than happy to let Tomiyasu have the ball, as he's not really an offensive threat when on the ball. Arteta tried to counter this lack of penetration down the left-hand side by having Gabriel be more aggressive, looking to bypass Kane and Musiala, and draw Leroy Sane out of position. This would then free Tomiyasu either to tuck in or more often move into the half space to try and create the overload in that final midfield line. But once again, he was not adept at picking up little pockets of space and creating the angles to receive the ball, and even when he did, he was not a threat. Down the right-hand side, Guerrero was not always in line with the midfield line, and was much more man-oriented on white, meaning that Bayern's shape could look quite lopsided. What this meant is that Bayern had this central block which was extremely difficult to penetrate, and even when Odegaard looked to drop deep to assist the play, Lima could afford to be man-oriented on him as everybody else was covered. This would of course naturally mean that their fullbacks were isolated 1 versus 1, and Bayern had to place their trust in them. This did have some success, but Saka also got into extremely promising positions up against Mazraoui. But the majority of Arsenal's success came when they were able to play into that central zone and manipulate the shape of Bayern Munich. And this was done using wall passes, as when a man dropped deep, they looked to take advantage of the fact that Musiala was not man-oriented, but instead looking to cut out the passing angle. So what that would mean is that a first-time pass would allow Jorginho, or any other midfielder, to run off of Musiala, and suddenly they were attacking zone 14 unchallenged. But Bayern were effective at then getting numbers to drop back in extremely quickly, meaning that Arsenal created limited chances. No English sides in the semi-final, but a clash of the titans as Bayern Munich will go up against Real Madrid. What are your early predictions for that match? For the managerial tactical score, it was closely contested, and on a different day, the result could have been flipped around, meaning both Tuchel and Arteta earned 6.5s. But comment your ratings down below. And check out yesterday's video, analyzing how Ancelotti bested Pep.